Hello, Squirrel Squad. Sorry I'm late. I'm looking like a booger. Anyway, I'm here to read. We were in the middle of whatever chapter we're on. You'll see it. Because you'll see the title, but I haven't done it yet. Tell away and don't mind if I go on working, as I want to finish this job today, answered Rose with a long-handled paintbrush in her hand and a great pair of shears at her side. You're always so busy. What is it now? Let me help. I can talk faster when I'm doing something, which seemed hardly possible, for Kitty's tongue went like a mill clapper at all hours. Making picture books for my sick babies at the hospital. Pretty work, isn't it? You cut out and I'll paste them on these squares of gay cambric. Then we just type a few pages with a ribbon, and there's a nice, light, durable book for the poor dears to look at as they lie in their little beds. A capital idea. Do you go there often? However, do you find the time for such things? Asked Kitty, busily cutting from a big sheet the touching picture of a parent bird with a red head and a blue tail offering what looked like a small boa constrictor to one of its nestlings, a fat young squab with a green head, yellow body, and no tail at all. I have plenty of time now. I don't go out so much, for a party uses up 2 days generally, one to prepare for it and one to get over it, you know. People think it's so odd of you to give up society all of a sudden. They say you've turned pious, and it's owing to your peculiar upbringing. I always take your part and say it's a pity other girls haven't a sensible education, for I don't know one who is as satisfactory on the whole as you are. Much obliged. You may tell people I gave up gaiety because I value health more. But I haven't forsworn everything of the kind, Kit. I go to concerts and lectures and all sorts of early things and have nice times at home, as you know. I like fun as well as ever, but I'm getting on, you see, and must be preparing a little for the serious part of life. One never knows when it may come, said Rose thoughtfully as she pasted a squirrel upside down on the pink cotton page before her. That reminds me of what I wanted to say. If you'll believe me, my dear, Steve has got that very idea into his head. Did you or Mac put it there? Asked Kitty, industriously clashing her shears. No, I've given up lecturing the boys lately. They're so big now and they don't like it. And I fancy I've got into a way that was rather tiresome. Well then, he is turning pious too, and what is very singular, I like it. Now don't smile, I really do, and want to be getting ready for the serious part of life, as you call it. That is, I want to grow better as fast as I can, for Steve says he isn't half good enough for me. Just think of that. Kitty looked so surprised and pleased and proud that Rose felt no desire to laugh at her sudden fancy for sobriety, but said in her most sympathetic tone, I'm very glad to hear it, for it shows that he loves you in the right way. Is there more than one way? Yes, I fancy so, because some people improve so much after they fall in love, and others do not at all. Have you never observed that? I never learned how to observe. Of course, I know that some matches turn out well and some don't, but I never thought much about it. Well, I have, for I was rather interested in the subject lately and had a talk with Aunt Jessie and Uncle about it. Gracious, you don't talk to them about such things, do you? Yes, indeed. I ask any questions I like and always get a good answer. It's a very nice way to learn, Kitty, for you don't have to pore over books. But as things come along, you talk about them and remember, and when they are spoken of afterward, you understand and are interested, though you don't say a word, explained Rose. It must be nice, but I haven't anyone to do so for me. Papa's too busy, and Mama always says when I ask questions, don't trouble your head with such things, child. So I don't. What did you say about matches turning out well? I'm interested in that because I want mine to be quite perfect in all respects. After thinking it over, I came to the conclusion that Uncle was right, and it's not always safe to marry a person just because you love them, began Rose, trying to enlighten Kitty without betraying herself. Of course not if they haven't money or are bad, but otherwise I don't see what more is needed, said Kitty wonderingly. One should stop and see if it's a wise love, likely to help both parties and wear well. For you know it ought to last one all one's lifetime, and it's very sad if it doesn't. I declare it quite scares me to think of it, for I don't usually go beyond my wedding day in making plans. I remember, though, that when I was engaged the first time, you don't know the man. It was just after you went away, and I was only 16. Someone very ill-naturedly said I should marry in haste and repent at leisure, and that made me try to imagine how it would seem to go on year after year with Gustavus, who had a dreadful temper, by the way. It worried me so to think that I had broke the engagement and was so glad ever afterward. You were a wise girl, and I hope you'll do it again if you find after a time that you and Steve do not truly trust and respect, as well as love one another. If you don't, you'll be miserable when it's too late, as so many people are who do marry in haste and have a lifetime to repent it. Aunt Jessie says so, and she knows. Don't be solemn, Rose. It fidgets me to think about lifetimes and respecting and all those responsible things. I'm not used to it, and I don't know how to do it. But you must think, and you must learn how before you take the responsibility upon yourself. That's what your life is for, and you mustn't spoil it by doing a very solemn thing without seeing if you are ready for it. Do you think about all this? Exclaimed Kitty, shrugging up her shoulders as if responsibility of any kind did not sit comfortably on them. One has to sometimes, you know, but is that all you wanted to tell me? Added Rose, anxious to turn the conversation from herself. Oh dear, no, the most serious thing of all is this. Steve is putting himself in order generally, and so I want to do my part and must begin right away before my thoughts get distracted with clothes and all sorts of dear delightful frivolous things that I can't help liking. Now, I wish you'd tell me where to begin. Shouldn't I improve my mind by reading something solid? And Kitty looked over at the well-filled bookcase as if to see if it contained anything large and dry enough to be considered solid. It would be an excellent plan, and we'll look up something. What do you feel? What do you feel as if you needed most? A little of everything, I should say, for when I look into my mind, there really doesn't seem to be much there but odds and ends. And yet I'm sure I've read a great deal more than some girls do. I suppose novels don't count, though, and are of no use. Goodness knows. Are of no use, for goodness knows the people and things they describe aren't a bit like the real ones. Some novels are very useful and do as much good as sermons, I've heard Uncle say, because they not only describe truly, but teach so pleasantly that people like to learn in that way, said Rose, who knew the sort of books Kitty had read and did not wonder what did not wonder that she felt rather astray when she tried to guide herself by their teaching. You pick me out some of the right kind, and I'll apply my mind to them. Then I ought to have some serious views and methods and principles. Steve said, principles, good firm ones, you know. And Katie gave a little pull at the bit of cane brick she was cutting